The passage of same-sex marriage here in New York has elevated Governor Andrew Cuomo's national profile, feeding speculation about a possible presidential bid in 2016. Joining us now to talk more about how Cuomo's success is being perceived in D.C. is Washington Post reporter Chris Cillizza. He's the author of the blog The Fix. Thanks for your time, Chris. It's great to see you.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Okay. The honor is all mine. You know why? Because this topic just makes me so happy. So happy. Because I know we have a presidential in 2012, but, you know, 2016 with a dog in the game for New York is every New York political reporter's dream. But really, everybody keeps cautioning me, oh, it's too early, it's too early. What are they saying down in the nation's capital?
Well, they still say, I wrote a piece recently, right after the gay marriage passed in New York State Senate, and Governor Cuomo signed it, saying essentially, like, asking the question, does this make him the front runner in 2016? The vast majority of people who commented on the blog, who responded on Twitter, responded to me via email, said, it's way too soon. How can you do this? Look, once a political junkie, always a political junkie. These are races that I think everyone who is in politics, interested in politics, is always looking at the next big race. It's just who we are as people. And the 2016 race is one that people are already talking about. And I would say, Liz, and this is important, if you think that the people mentioned aren't considering the possibility on their own, I know Governor Cuomo would never say that he's doing anything related to a presidential bid, and he's probably not, but the idea that his advisors, someone there, isn't thinking about it in the back of their mind. Same thing for Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley. Of course they're thinking about it. These are politicians. They are ambitious people. You do not run to be the governor of a state unless you are ambitious. And if you want to be the governor of New York, why wouldn't you want to be the chief executive of the United States? So the idea that it's too early, we're not thinking about it, history has shown that that's not true. Okay,
well, so what? You're not buying it when Andrew Cuomo says on the radio, oh, wait, no, I have a lot to do here. I mean, wait a minute, hold on now. No, I'm not interested. You're not buying that?
I take him at his word that he's not thinking about it right now. And he may not even think about it for the next few years. But there are people, whether they're in his official orbit or his unofficial orbit, who have an eye on that 2016 race. I don't think they're talking to people in Iowa. I don't think they're talking to people in New Hampshire. I don't think they're doing anything like that. But the idea of dismissing out of hand, look, Andrew Cuomo is a smart enough politician to know you don't rule anything out, and you especially don't rule out a presidential bid 5 years before the race happens.
Yeah, but
Barack Obama...
Yeah, that's. I was just going to ask you, Barack Obama. I mean, isn't this really? You saw that Times editorial that was actually quite sharp about Barack Obama, saying basically, where are you on gay marriage? You came to New York in the middle of our discussion here about this, and you punted, basically, and really sort of taking him to task about that. I mean, Barack Obama and the White House cannot be happy to see these kind of comparisons being made with a New York governor that, P.S., the White House supported against David Patterson way back in the day.
Right. No, it's not. I mean, the president doesn't ever want to be outflanked on his left. Now, Andrew Cuomo, we're not going to get way ahead of ourselves and say, what about an Andrew Cuomo primary in 2012?
No, that's
not
crazy.
happening.
That's crazy.
That's not happening. But no, of course, he doesn't want to get outflanked to his left, and he doesn't want in a major state. It's not just a major state, right? It's not just that it's New York and it's a big state. It's also that it's a Cuomo. This is someone with a long history in Democratic politics. He's getting attention. And this goes back to my initial point. Whether or not Andrew Cuomo has ever in his own mind thought, maybe I'd like to be president, which, to be frank, he has to have thought. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I can't imagine he hasn't had that thought at some point in his life. He's doing the sorts of things in these first 6 months as governor of the state. And Liz, you know this better than me, but the budget, ethics reform, and now this same-sex marriage. He's putting the resume together that if he wanted to be a candidate in 2016, of course, this is all pending what happens over the next few years, but in his first 6 months, that resume looks pretty good for someone who wants to run in a Democratic primary where we know most of the votes are coming from liberals, and gay marriage, the person who pushed it through in a big state is going to be a champion.
Chris, when you mentioned the issue about liberals in primaries, what about this idea that he's not happy, or the unions are not happy with him? I mean, that is going to be a problem for him going forward. Now, he's no Scott Walker, who happens to be in New York today and getting protested by the liberal left. But nevertheless, he took on the unions, and so far he's winning. You need those unions. They're troops. You got to have them.
Absolutely, no question. But one thing I would say, Liz, is, and I don't know, we don't have enough evidence to say anything definitively about labor and its power in presidential politics.
True.
But Barack Obama had some labor support, but so did Hillary Clinton. I mean, labor was not unified behind a single candidate. And remember, back in 2004, who was labor's candidate in the 2004 Democratic presidential nomination fight? Dick Gebhardt.
Yeah.
You know how that turned out. Yep. So I'm not suggesting that if Andrew Cuomo is at daggers drawn with unions in New York and nationally in 2014, that's a problem. I'm not trying to downplay that. I just think the idea that kind of taking on unions means it's a deal killer, he can't win a Democratic nomination. I'm not sure that's as true today, and probably won't be as true in 2016 as it was 20 years ago.
You bring up Hillary Clinton. I mean, there's another person who's saying, not interested, sorry, no, no, no. But she really has the right of first refusal, don't you think, in 2016? I mean, Andrew Cuomo served in her husband's cabinet.
I do, and I think it's going to be a situation, Liz, like we saw in 2004 with Al Gore, which was we didn't think he was running, but until he said, I'm definitely not running, he had to sort of come out and say, I'm not running, before everyone moved on.
Right.
And while I take Senator Clinton, Secretary of State Clinton now at her word, and every indication, at least I have down here, is that she means it. She's not plotting a run for president down the line or a run for anything else down the line. I do think if in 2016 or 2015 or maybe even 2014 there will be questions asked, does no definitely mean no as it relates to you in the presidential race? Is there a chance of an opening that you'd consider it? If she shuts the door in a Sherman-esque way, we'll move on. Until she shuts the door in a Sherman-esque way, we probably won't.
Yeah, and also we're speculating a lot about another guy who's in the tri-state area. That, of course, is Chris Christie. He made very clear in 24 hours, he came out on national television and said, yeah, that gay marriage bill that Andrew Cuomo just signed, wouldn't have signed it. I thought it was very interesting that he made a specific, now, I mean, he was booked anyway, but he made a specific point of saying, I wouldn't have done this Cuomo-Christie matchup in 2016. I am so ready for it. Yes?
You and every reporter who has roots or works in the tri-state area, I think that like in the fantasy politics draft, that's the two that you pick.
Totally.
Yeah, look, the thing that I find fascinating about Chris Christie, and I don't think just let me say, I don't think he's running for president in 2012. I don't think there's some secret plan of him getting in the race late. But this is somebody who's on the Today Show, Piers Morgan on CNN. He is doing a ton of national media. So he's clearly interested in maintaining and bolstering his national profile.
Yeah.
If he said, I'm not interested in it, look at Jeb Bush as an example down in Florida. Somebody mentioned in 2012 who has ruled it out. You don't see Jeb Bush having Piers Morgan at CNN at his house with his kids talking over the kitchen counter.
You know
Yes.
who else you don't see doing any national? Zero national. Andrew Cuomo. No national TV.
Yep.
And yet
it's
here
smart,
we are.
I think, Liz.
Here we
He doesn't
are.
need to.
Nope.
Right? He doesn't need to, because you and I are talking about this. I wrote something about it. Many other people, Maggie Haberman, the one-time New York tabloid reporter, now for Politico, wrote about it. He doesn't need it. And that's the other thing I mentioned earlier about his name and his dad. That gives him, he can focus locally because he knows he's a Cuomo. And now with the same-sex marriage bill passing, he knows he's in that national conversation. He knows people like you and I are going to mention his name. He doesn't have to force his way into that conversation. And that's of real value, because he can say, I'm focused at home, I'm focused at home. Remember what Hillary Clinton said when she got elected in 2000. Well, I'm focused locally. She was doing the deals of the upstate farmers and the downstate markets. That's what she focused on for those first 4 years, because she knew people like us would spend all of our time wondering if and when she was going to run for president. She didn't need to get herself in that conversation.
Two things on this. Two things. One, it just speaks to how boring 2012 is already, even though I know the whole Palin Bachman thing and everybody's all excited about that. You got an incumbent. We already know the Democrats are set on their guy, and we're looking at the Republicans going, not so sure. Maybe the best thing to do is be boring like Mitt Romney. I mean, that's just not very exciting. So we're looking for some news, right?
I think that I think all political junkies, and that's who's paying attention, frankly, at this point in a presidential race, are trying to think whether 2012 will be like 2008. And I think the answer is it probably won't be. As you said, we have an incumbent now. We had a double open seat, open on the Republican side, open on the Democratic side in 08. We had personalities, even, New York's own Rudy Giuliani, who obviously didn't come close to winning. He was a major national figure before he ran. We don't have those kind of personalities in the Republican field at the moment. So I think we're looking more like a 2004 race where John Kerry narrowly lost to George Bush, a referendum on the incumbent with a field that the out of the White House party isn't thrilled about, but the national dynamic is such that we're going to be looking at a close race almost no matter who Republicans nominate.
Well, sadly,
not the excitement probably of 08 or 2016 potentially.
No, and we have a lot of time to talk about this, which is awesome because you and I will be talking about it again, thankfully. Unfortunately,
I'd love to.
At this moment, we're out of time. I do have to just say, 2014, everybody's got to get reelected. We're talking about governors here, Chris Christie, Andrew Cuomo. So, of course, we'll be looking at that, and no major missteps between now and then. In the meantime, I want to thank you very much, Chris Cillizza. It's great to see you. Talk to you soon.
Liz, thanks for having me.